town budget, there are two areas in the town budget where where TMAC related events are found. One is in the budget code 1622 that starts on page 5. For those of you that have the budget that was printed out. And Mike, the other one is the 7010 code that starts on page 9. Now the difference between these two budgetary codes, this was done with I set it up this way with the concept that the part of the theater that was related to the cinemas is the 7010. So I've captured in that 7010 section of the budget everything that is theater related, showing the movies, everything that's associated with that. And then the supervisor's spoken many times about other things that this community could do with this building, and some of which have already started. And those types of events are showing in the TMAC Civic Center, which in the tentative budget is on page 5, and as I said, it's the budgetary code 1622. So Dennis, maybe you'd like to explain a little bit about what it is you like, what you did.
Basically what I did was I took a look back to 2014, which was the first time we saw any expenses or budgets related to this particular building, and picked up the cost associated with that. Now, along with the 1622 code for appropriations and the 7010 code, which is for the theaters themselves, if you go toward, on page 2, toward the bottom of the page, for those of you who have any accounting experience or P&L experience, the revenues usually come first, but since I'm left-handed, the revenues come last. No, I'm only kidding. It was a lot easier for me to do it that way in Excel so that I could do appropriate filters on the expense side. But in any case, page 2, and then at the bottom of page 2, you will see the operating loss associated with the theater over the years 2014 up to and including the 2016 tentative budget. The lines that I've included are not only the ones that you see on page 5 of the tentative budget, but I've also included a couple of the capital lines and the capital equipment.
Yeah, the debt payment, which is
Right.
the debt payments that you'll find in the tentative budget, you'll find those at the end after benefits, and those are in the tentative budget. You will find them on page 13. And so the $160,000 payment of principal that we spoke about earlier tonight is recorded in Dennis's income statement. And that's the other line, the other area of the budget that appears in this. So it really comes from 3 places. Sorry.
Now, on the revenue side, I did not include the fund balance, which can be considered to be additional revenue. I didn't want to muddy the water with that. I've shown it only as an expense for the principal payment. Now, there is one thing that is lacking from this, and that is the benefit costs that go with the salaries. Those have not yet been allocated into this. But I was more interested in making sure that you at least had some sense of what was going on here in terms of the income statement. On page 3, what I tried to do was follow Peter's analysis that you usually find on page 2 of his tentative budget, and that is the allocation of the deriving of the tax factor per $1,000. And so the top half of that page 3 is what you will find in the tentative budget.
That page is on the screen right now, Dennis.
Okay, that's the page on the screen.
The page from the budget, not yours.
Right.
That
And
you
on the
might
bottom part of that page 3 is how the 2016 theater budget is impacting your taxes. What you will be paying in taxes for this theater for 2016. So
on the
we
tax
start,
bill.
yeah. You start with the appropriation, which is the 1,039,000 that you see on page 2.
Put that back up here, please.
The revenue is the projected
It's on
revenue.
the top of the screen
Hard to
here.
say, yeah. Just still understanding it all.
Less the fund balance gives you the amount of money that needs to be raised by taxes. That's the $194,398. Apply that against the assessed valuation to get a factor. And that factor times the assessed value of a property, typical property, in increments of 25,000, from 50, 75, and 100. Just to give you a sense of what that contribution would be in your tax bill. This is the town-wide tax, so probably people who don't use the theater or would never want to use the theater for whatever reasons will be paying that amount of money. And there are a significant population, maybe half the population of this town that probably wouldn't use the theater, at least the movie part.
And they paid anyway.
If you look at the 2015 anticipated budgeted column, the bottom line, about $500,000, I think that was a number that we've talked about in some circles for most of the year. So we're coming in very close to that now. What I am concerned about from a budget point of view is as I look at 2016, these revenue numbers show a pretty significant increase, almost $500,000, $427,000 increase in revenue year over year. I would like to think that could really happen. And on the appropriation side, year over year, it's a 33% increase or more than $250,000. Those are very interesting numbers, but I also find that this probably can't sustain itself. And I have spoken some few times with some of my council members about the fact that I think, while this is a great endeavor, I think we've proven a point that it could be a good ongoing proposition for somebody who wasn't in municipal government. I think the fact that what's been done so far, I think, is very admirable. I'm glad that we were at least involved in getting this moving, and rather than this building just sitting empty and rotting for the year. However, even though there's good news in all this, the fact that we've sold an awful lot of tickets, I think that makes the value of this building and this operation more attractive to a non-government operator. I think we've probably reached the point where the expenses that are going to have to be generated to support this building in the future in terms of management, overall management, it can't be the town board. I don't think it can be the supervisor, and it can't be the controllers. We're going to need somebody. If we want to achieve numbers like this, I think it's going to have to be somebody who is from the business.
Would you suggest,
I would suggest, and at least, and from my point of view, again, I'm very pleased that we came in with the number that I had forecasted early on, even though it wasn't, stellar. It is at least often doing well. That doesn't mean that we can do this forever. I would like to think that we put this up to referendum, that we sell this building to somebody who's in the theater business and let the public decide whether that should be a yes or a no. I personally think that we've probably taken it as far as we can with the resources we have. And this is not, I'm not being negative, I'm being very positive about the work that's been put into this so far. But in order for us to achieve any kind of growth pattern here, I really do think that a private operator would be a better shot for us. Now,
Dennis?
given that we've been able to generate revenue here, and we've sold more than 15,000 tickets. 17,000 tickets. That has to translate, I would think, into a number, which I won't, throw about, but maybe it's 2 million, maybe it's 2.5 million. So I think, in any case, I think we could sell this and make some money.
Dennis?
Yes,
Could I just would like to point out one thing.
Yep.
And that is that when you're looking at the 2015 numbers, we
Mhm.
started in May. So
Yep.
2015, just to make the point clear to everybody, 2015 is basically a 32-week run. Okay?
Well, there is another aspect of this too that I didn't mention, but, as I was pulling these numbers together in my own mind, I'm saying, you know what? Look at the column that says balance, excess, deficit. And if I do a run rate against what's remaining, even the fact that we didn't start this until May, it looks to me like that $523,000 bottom line is somewhat in jeopardy. I think we're on a trajectory that's going to cost more, cause our expenses to go up. Hopefully the revenues will go up a little bit. These numbers on the year-to-date are September 30th numbers, so there's still another quarter to go. But I didn't feel comfortable when I looked at the run rate. Now, I understand that the run rate isn't the appropriate way to look at every number on this page, even though I've adjusted it for 5 months of operation. I am concerned that we can't maintain this over a longer period of time, and certainly not with using municipal resources. I really do think that this needs to be put up for sale, and while we can show pretty decent numbers, probably better than the previous owners had, now may be the time to see if we can recoup our investment and make a little money, and maybe we can buy a Pike's kind. I'm done.
I got a question, Archer. First of all, thank you for doing the work that you did, and I respect your abilities to come up with the numbers. I'm not questioning anything about your numbers. I would ask you 2 things. First of all, when you said they commend the board, I think it's nice you said that, because I know you had your doubts to begin with, and I'm glad you're honest about it, and willing to look at the facts and come up with your own opinion. Thank you for that. Secondly, and as you know, as we talked, I was the most doubtful board member of all of them when we first started this. But I thought it was a good idea. I thought it was meant well, and I thought, I never thought the movie theater would open again if we didn't do it. So that was why I got on board with it. I was a Green Lake kid. I remember when they closed our theater on Jersey Avenue. We never had a theater after that. So that was a disappointment for being able to walk 2 blocks to the theater and never having one again, and having to go to West Milford or Monroe. It was a bit of a pain, you had to have your parents drive you or whatever, and they were busy too, so you didn't get to go to the movies as much. The other thing, when you say growth pattern, could you explain that to me, what you mean by that? I know what growth is and I know what a pattern is, but can you tell me what you mean by that, just so I know, and the public?
Well, however, I don't see that, 17,000, translates into, 100,000 next year, or maybe even 5 years from now. 17,000 may turn into 25,000 on an annualized basis, but 25,000 tickets a year can probably not keep us or even get us close to being break even. And I think it is our responsibility, our fiduciary responsibility, to try and come up with something that gets very close to break even. I think that to run in the red, and as I mentioned before, from a run rate basis, I would look at that 523 turning into $650,000. So on a trajectory basis, there'd have to be something pretty miraculous to get us close to break even.
I didn't use the spreadsheet because I was too lazy to turn my computer on. Came out to the same thing you did, to the penny, what this is going to cost. I also took it one step further. If we were to mothball this thing December 31st, we will still have to pay principal and interest of $168,855. Now, I threw in, we'll need some heat and electricity to keep this building going.
Right.
I took your figure of 4,625, and insurance on the building, which would probably be less, but I used your figure of 13,354, which would get us to $186,800 roughly, just to mothball this theater. But then I also think about, we have some contractual obligations. The people that are, I believe, December 31st is the cutoff point. If I remember correctly, when we signed that contract with the guys up in Newburgh. If we do not mothball it, and we do not stop that contract, we're going to be on the hook for $218,250 for the film distribution fees.
No. No, the film distribution fees are charged only if you show the films.
Okay, but what about the contract for $218,000 film? We're calling it film distribution fees. It's
That's separate.
$218,000.
The film distribution fees amount to, on the average, between around 45% of ticket sales. So that's a separate thing. That's driven by the ticket sales.
Our contract, though, is with somebody in Newburgh. If that's the name.
With Downing Film Center,
Right,
there's a
Downing.
separate contract. You're
What
right.
is our contract with them? How much will it cost us if we do not stop it before January 1st?
Well, you'd have to at least let it ride out the out clause, which if memory serves me, 60 days. So you'd have to pay 2 months of the thing before you could get out of it.
Well, no,
Dan,
November and
Jerry, I
December.
don't know if that's correct. I'm gonna pull up the contract if I can, and I'll.
There's an out clause, and you always have to pay the remainder of the out clause. Off the top of my head, I
It's
thought it
2
was
months.
60
I
days.
remember, it would be just
Yeah,
November and
but-
December, and we're out.
No, because you didn't close it till January, you said.
I
You're
said
saying,
December 31st, close this place.
but you still would have to pay for January and February. You said December 31st
I
close on the
believe we
contract.
had an out on the contract.
There is an out.
Okay.
I thought it was 2 months. I could be off in my head because I hadn't thought about that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but it's an expense that's gonna hit us.
It's just an estimate. People in the audience are wondering, that was an estimate.
I don't remember the exact details of that
Right.
contract. But if we can get out of it and not have to pay Downing Film, we're ahead of the game.
Monetarily.
Correct.
But then again, if you have to go back, if the theater was to, whatever, open or be sold, or let's say the town figured instead of mothballing it, what it's costing us, maybe we would open again until we could sell it, then you would have to re-up the contract, and that could cost more.
It's gonna cost more money.
You know, it wouldn't be a wise choice, in my opinion, to mothball the theater until you could sell it. I think that's kind of what you're getting at, maybe?
No, I'm getting at, if we have to sell it because we will never make money, we ought to cut it off before it costs us even more money contractually.
Okay.
We are on the hook for $168,000 a year, principal and interest. We would be on the hook, I'm guessing, to about $187,000 if we mothballed it, so it would be principal and interest, heat and electricity and insurance on the building. But if we have to now go ahead and pay a contractor, because we didn't stop in time, a significant amount of money, it's just gonna grow.
Or, the same way, it's not a shell game. It's the same. You
Not a shell.
you didn't pay attention to what I had to say earlier. This community spent $4.5 million, and Mr. Egan wasn't here, $4.5 million from 2004 through 2014, out of fund balance. That $4 million did not hit anybody's tax bill. Did not.
Okay, Okay, but then it's,
So this 160 was set up, the $880,000, $80,000 came out of fund balance right up the top. And there was an $800,000 note. That $800,000 note was paid, is being paid at $160,000 a year out of fund balance.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
it's not, so that part has to come off.
well,
that
I didn't
sense.
include that. In my $870,000, I just took your budget. I took the,
You can't, how does that happen? It doesn't add up.
yes, it does, 7,010, page 9, $752,773.66. For the Civic Center, it's $117,760.
Since I have the opportunity, I just want to give you my point of view, and my point of view is the predominant point of view in this community when you talk to people outside of this room, okay? You know, you guys, whoever, you know, you or your successors and your predecessors, doesn't matter who the person is, your jobs is not to entertain the community. It's just not. Your job is to provide services to the community, and that's what the tax dollars are for. You plow roads, you maintain roads, you do the bill paying of the staff, and so on and so forth. That's what you do. That's why governments are there. I mean, you don't see us as a community advocating for, you know, the czar of entertainment. You know, we're not saying let's have a director of entertainment up there. You don't see any town having that because it's not their job. Your job is to provide services to the community that businesses won't do. And businesses won't run a library because they lose money. And businesses won't run a park because they lose money. Right? That's why you have a park, and that's why you pay for a library. There are a lot of businesses that run movies. They're all over Orange County. You can go to Chester, 4 miles away. You can go to Middletown. You can go to Newburgh. You can go south. And that's what private business does. You don't do that. You shouldn't be doing that. I've made a living for 35 years, 38 years in the entertainment business, in the television business. This is not a new concept to me, right? This is an old concept. It's been talked about for a long time. Middletown didn't get into it because they wanted to run movies. They got into it because the theater was bankrupt and the guy owed back taxes. And they took in the building because it's a beautiful landmark building. It's not like this. It's not a beautiful building. That was a beautiful building, and they were trying to preserve it to bring people in. And so they were in a bad situation. That's why they did it. I'm friends with the CFO there. They'd get rid of it in a second if someone else would step in and pay the bills. It costs them a lot of money. So, you know, your analogies here are not good analogies, guys. So, you know, I'll dispatch with that, and, you know, otherwise we're just gonna debate it, but you know, shed a little reality. I mean, you guys have the microphones, you go through this every meeting that I attend, and so I think in fairness, you know, you should open up your ears and hear the other side of the story. So
October 5.
October 5th. So this, the data that's in there has been available since then, since the 5th.
The only change to what Peter's saying versus the preliminary budget or tentative budget is that I used September 30th
Right.
numbers
right.
as opposed to August. So this has been updated for one more month to include the revenue side and the expense side. But it's coming straight off the accounting system, so.
okay. So what did you say?
If you want to talk about the budget, though, I'm going to need Peter to
Yeah.
give me the rationale for it.
Well, let's just go through some of it then tonight. What did you say is missing, is not in here?
It would be the fringe benefits.
So benefits?
Yeah.
That's two
That-
employees.
Full-time, it's only
There's only
full-time.
two full-time.
Yeah. And does that, when you say that, does that include FICA, does that include Medicare, Social Security?
I would include that as.
So that has to be included.
That has to be
benefits,
added in,
absolutely.
yes.
So it's not in here now, that's what I'm asking. When you say-
That is not in here.
Okay.
That is
So we
correct.
need that.
All right. And Dennis, what are or Peter, what are the meanings of these columns? So 2015 anticipated budgeted, what does that mean?
That's the current adjusted budget for 2015.
For the full year, 12-month budget?
First, you didn't adjust it up for 12 months though for the 70-10, right? The 70-10 budget, as it appears in the tentative, in the tentative budget for 2015, the 70-10 lines represent an amended budget that was done by the town board in May. So that budget data represents essentially 32 weeks.
$569,000.
Yeah, that's the 32 weeks.
This is right off the accounting system, so.
Right, but
Any
that's,
adjustments that have been made, any motions that we adopted to change an appropriation
are in there.
are in there as of 9/30.
As of 9/30, and but it represents a budget that was designed for 32 weeks because we didn't start until, actually, we didn't start showing films until May 22nd.
I would agree.
And we didn't have contractual payments, other than a few $1,000s that were made before that, for anything that was actually cinema related.
Correct.
Dude.
I'm just trying to get a handle on what it is. So for instance, total appropriations, which I think equates to expense, really,
Yes.
$781,000. That's the expense anticipated for the full year of 2015, correct? Okay. And then the column to the right of that is what's been expensed year to date
Year-to-date September.
through September 30th?
Correct.
Okay. And then two columns over 2015 tentative budget, that's 12 months, right?
That's correct.
That's 12 months.
Okay, and then that would flow through to, on the revenue and net operating loss lines as well, be the same logic, right? Okay. So then, and again, let me say, first of all, it's wonderful that you did this, okay? It really is, and I appreciate it. What?
Sorry it took so long.
Yeah, me too. But it's good, it's great that, we finally have it, and I hope that going forward, a P&L could be produced every month, and we could all, as a community, all see how the movie theater's doing, and you have a format here, you have the numbers, it's pretty easy to do. I think it's just a matter of will, whether you want the numbers out or not, and I sure hope that you feel that you do in the end. Dennis, if this thing is costing $781,000 over 6.5 months, right, which is $120,000 a month, right? Sort of roughly, right? How can it only cost $1 million in 12 months? Seems like it should cost at a minimum about $1.3 million, right? Hours. We just went through the water, and the numbers seem to be a little questionable for next year. And so I just will repeat what I said. To me, when I look at it on a macro basis, and I look at these $781,000 for 6.5 months, I question how it could be $1 million for 12 months next year. Now let me jump to the revenue side. I think what you're saying is you've got through September 30th, you've booked $158,000 of revenue, right? Total revenue, according to this. Okay. And then you're projecting that by year end you'll be $258,000, right? So the last 3 months of the year.
No.
No? Okay. Where am I going wrong there?
Well, I'm not quite sure about what Dennis indicated, but the budget that the town board adopted for the 32 weeks of TMAC indicated that there would be a shortfall of $140,000 and change in the 32 weeks between expenses and revenues.
No, I'm just asking about the revenue. I'm just trying to understand the revenue budgeted. So I'm just looking at 2015 first, so then I can look at 2016 with some history.
Oh, you're referring between 15 and 16? Okay.
No, I'm referring to 15 now. It says 158
158.
booked through September 30th, right? Right, okay, right. Okay, so, and that's, 4.5 months or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's like.
June, July, August, September, 4.5 months, right? Okay. So it's, it's a little less than 40,000 a month, I don't have a calculator, maybe
Well, you
it's
can't-
35,000 a month.
The way people go to the movies,
That quickly.
So you don't have a column here that is telling us what you really think is gonna happen for the year?
Well, I have a run rate column,
I mean, it's 2015 year to date.
yeah.
Yeah, but no taking the run rate, projecting it, for a year or something.
Oh, no, I didn't do it against next year, I just did it against the remainder of the year.
Mhm.
And my revenue came out to 253, so it's gonna be, appears to be a little shy, but then again, I don't have any background information to